Hey there, my name is Colleen Coles, and I am a purpose alignment coach who help young professionals just get really clear on their truth and passion and turn it into a meaningful career. And I want to tell my personal story today about meditation and how it's really helped clear out so much gunk in my life, but how it was really a tremendous fear. And so, if you have any fears around anything new age, any type of like crystals or meditation technique, I want to help you kind of get over that and really see how, even if we feel this fear towards something that we feel good about, we can still do it and release that and have way more benefits from doing that thing that scared us. So hop on if you've maybe never tried meditation, if you have some bad juju towards it or resistance towards it, and we're going to go ahead and dive in. So again, I'm Colleen, and I have background as a Spirit Junkie masterclass graduate and coach, and I've had such an interesting journey on my spiritual path. And what that's looked like is being raised Catholic and really committing to that faith and loving it and wanting to dive so deeply into what the church was teaching and how it could help me and how it could save me. And yet, as I dove more deeply into that faith and the dogma and the practices and the Christianity, I started to realize I was looking outwards rather than inward. And even though, if you're Christian, like, it's obviously a very personal experience. And yet for me, I kept putting that authority outside of my own self and giving away my power to make decisions for myself with how I feel or felt right about something or wrong. And so as I needed to make more decisions on my own, like through high school, of where to apply to college, or, even in college, like knowing who to date and who not to, or what to study and what's my purpose, it kind of got confusing because I kept putting my authority outside of myself. And here's an example. I remember when I was in high school as a sophomore, and I was at my youth ministry, Sunday Bible study. And I decided to read this really cool book called the Tao of Pooh. And it's just this tiny little book about how Winnie the Pooh is the best example of practicing Taoism and going with the flow and just letting what is be and having peace through that. And as I was reading this, I remember being outside in nature, reading outside at night, even at the lights, in my patio, but being in the grass and connected to so much nature and all that is in spirit, and was having a really fun time reading it. And when I went to my Bible study class, I remember being there with one of the mentors and sharing with him how I was reading this really great book. And it was a little off the cuff because it wasn't a Christian book, but I told him, yeah, it's this book called The Tao of Pooh, and it's great. And I'm having so much of a great connection with it. So notice that's my truth, right? That's my experience. And yet here is what my mentor said, what are you talking about? What is this book, the Tao of what? Of Pooh? Like Pooh? And he just totally downplayed this one experience and also this book because it wasn't Christian or in line with his beliefs. And in that moment, as much as I tried to convince him, no, it's really cool, or, whatever, I started to feel my own energy deplete. And I started to feel these recurring thought patterns of like, oh, this isn't good enough, or, oh, this isn't okay, right? And in that moment, I gave away my power and adopted the belief that what interests me or what I'm feeling isn't right and isn't okay. And so I need to go with more of what other people are telling me. And so as I, got older, I'm 28 now, but it became harder and harder and more wobbly and more nervousy to make any decision on my own, because I felt like I had to get the approval or authority of someone else outside of me. And let me know if you're here live on the chat, if that's you, or just think about if you're watching the replay, if that's you, if you have a hard time making decisions, if you have a hard time trusting what you want, if you have a hard time even hearing what you want, this is for you. Because I have been there too, and it's so frustrating, and it just can make your gut hurt so bad and just your whole being, just your whole day filled with anxiety. And so what I want to share is kind of how I transform this in my own life and how you can too. Now, one of the ways in which this tendency to give my power away or ask authority from outside sources affected my life was by keeping me stuck with these beliefs and basically having me think that I can't do this on my own. Like, I can't do life on my own. I can't decide, right? And now I'm a purpose alignment coach because I went through a journey of even knowing, like, well, what's my purpose? What do I want? And luckily, I found my way out. But what I want to really hone in as the example to that whole process of figuring out what you want or owning your own authority back to yourself is with this story of meditation. And before I get into this story, I just want to touch on this basic concept with you. That, if you're feeling anxious or nervous in knowing what you want to do or not knowing, and having confidence in yourself, in really feeling like you have a passion to share or a purpose to share or a message to share or just something of value coming from within going out, like the real way to fix that and to become confident and powerful within yourself is to realize that that's really the mind making you feel like the authority is outside of yourself. Because the truth is, we all have the same authority because we're all just spiritual beings having human experience and part of God living out this humanity, right? And so when we put our authority outside of ourselves, we're really giving way to our ego mind. Our ego is kind of that part of our mind that is scared but keeps us safe and wants to keep us safe and survive, but through keeping us small and separate. And it's not the truth of who we are. Okay, so when we're following our ego, we can know it because we feel depleted, because we feel lacking, we feel less than, we feel not good enough, and we feel, oh, my dog's here. We feel that we can't do it on our own, and we feel like we have to search and that our happiness is outside of ourselves, when in truth, our confidence, our clarity will come from within and go outward. Okay. So back to how I kind of overcame this ability to, I overcame this tendency to show the authority was outside of me and stop myself from doing what I wanted because of what other people were saying. I was in my college experience when I started meditating. And I was really interested in meditation and I wanted to study it. I was even helping with psychology, undergraduate research on mindfulness and diabetes and really into it. And I remember sitting and getting a book about meditation from the local library. And it was just this little purple book and ready to read it and ready to open up and kind of discover what this was all about. But I had this underlying inkling of fear because the same people that I kind of grew up with shared how, and especially my Christian faith, how, meditation is okay, but be careful because you're opening yourself up to so many other dimensions and so many other demons and that type of thing. And so I had this underlying belief or inkling that meditation was going to not be safe. Right. And it was holding me back from something that I wanted to do. And it was holding me back for something that I knew could be really positive for me. And so if that feels, similar, I want, you to relate, like, what are you afraid to do that you really want to do? And why are you afraid to do it? What memory kind of comes up for you that blocks you from that desire? And so for me, it was meditation. And I remember wanting to meditate, but sometimes when I would just sit down and close my eyes in the dark, it would get scary where I felt this pressure almost coming outside of me that I couldn't, it wasn't safe, almost like there were these demons, right? Like these negative energies. And I would stop and I would just go to bed and I wouldn't trust it or I wouldn't get started and there was resistance around it. And finally, as I kind of cracked open this book and was reading about it and thought it, lots of benefits, all that, I decided to give it one more big try because I knew how to do it. I knew I wanted to. I knew there were positive effects for some people. And so I wanted to give it a try. And I remember sitting in my bed in my little college home and the bed was on a floor that was so old, it was actually crooked. And so the bed was crooked. So I was crooked in the dark here in this tiny little room, the size of my bed. And as I, close the door, shut the lights off, sitting there cross-legged, eyes closed, I started to breathe in deeply and exhaling. And I started to breathe in deeply and exhaling. And as I did this, I felt as if there was a presence outside of me coming closer. And as I kept breathing in and out, it felt like this negative energy, this negative fear, this like as if fear embodied itself and was coming at me, as if it was a demon. That's how I would have turned it in that time. It was as if this was coming closer. The more I got deeper into this meditation and just going deeper and deeper. And now, if we pause, like that could have stopped me again, right? And it could have said like, oh, this is a sign why meditation is not okay for me, right? But instead, I don't know why, but instead, I didn't let that stop me. And I think it's because I just wanted it badly at that point. I wanted it badly. I just remember closing my eyes and it feeling like it was coming closer and closer and closer. And instead of backing down or feeling like it wasn't right, I decided to just keep breathing. And I remember there was this moment when it felt like this fear or this literally like an evil spirit was right by my face, as if I could open my eyes and see something there. There was this moment of this spirit, if you will, this negative energy passing right by my face and almost passing right through me and then totally disappearing. And when that happened, I felt lighter. I felt like relieved. I felt there was nothing to be afraid of. And I kind of finished my meditation and opened my eyes and just had so much clarity and so much like amazement at how this thing that I was so afraid of didn't actually keep me stuck. And it didn't actually harm me in any certain way. In fact, what I kind of came to take away from that experience was how the fear itself was real. It was almost embodied, but it was being created through my mind and through my beliefs. And that my beliefs or kind of restricting of what I was doing because of it was the one that was giving it power. Like I was the one giving it power through my decisions to keep not doing what I wanted because it was there. And as I was doing that, I was giving it the power. But when I chose to just stand in truth of my desires and do what I really wanted to do, all of a sudden it didn't have any more power anymore. It couldn't sustain itself because I was the one giving it the power. It wasn't even real on its own, as if it's a shadow and I'm the light, right? Like if I keep giving it, I don't know if that's the best analogy, but like it's not the real one, I'm the real one. And just like any beliefs that we might put on ourselves that keep us stuck, really more accurately adopt that are not our own. We can give back and we can stop letting them stop us from doing what we desire, even if they feel like they could be true. And so what I want to give to you today, just to walk away with is, a step or just the ability to also see that what you may be afraid of and might be kind of unconsciously resisting and not starting, even though you want to, isn't real. And it's only gaining power because you're choosing not to look at it. And once we just allow ourselves to see that that fear is not us, we can relax and push through and allow what we desire to come out. And so the first kind of way to do that is to really just acknowledge that that fear exists and that belief is there, which is not of ourselves. It doesn't mean that that's real or me just because I'm thinking it, right? And then two, just continue to do what we want, just like I did in my meditation. But what I really want to, core message send to you here is how what we're fearing doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't do what we want to do. And it's only gaining its power through our decision or lack of decision to keep going or to confront it. But once we choose to just allow ourselves to do what we want, that will pass away. And so, sometimes it's hard to really decide, and have the commitment to do what you really want or even know what you really want, because sometimes those beliefs are so strong, like I'm not enough and I can't do it. So it's causing confusion in knowing what we even want to do. And so if that's an issue for you, that's something, I can help you with as a coach and as a mentor to get out those beliefs from your mind and identify them so you can release them and get clarity on what you want. Because once those are there, the clarity comes. Our natural state is love. Our natural state is clarity. And we will naturally rise to that state once those fears are out of the way. Because what I've gained from meditation now that I do daily is so much clarity, so much abundance in my thinking and connection to spirit, and enthusiasm and purpose to get the fuck out of bed and just go for what I really want. And so that's just what I wanted to share about how we can think our fears are so real, but they're not even from us, and they can keep us back from doing what we really want. If you have any questions on that or want to discover what you really want and get those beliefs out of the way, do contact me. You can find me at www.colleencoles.com. And so I wish you the most love today and blessings, and hope and trust this serves you today. So namaste, stay in touch, go to colleencoles.com to see me more and to even get in touch and contact me to share your story too. So lots of love and namaste.